What's going on, everyone? Today we are taking a look at a new e-bike. This is the Tesgo Thunder M, which is a long-range cargo e-bike. And when I say long range, I am not kidding around. If you look right here, we have a massive battery. This is a 48 volt 60 amp hour battery. Most e-bikes average at 20 amp hours for what they call a long-range bike. This is triple that at 60. Besides this bike, there's only a few other bikes that have 60 amp hour batteries, but this is the only cargo e-bike that I've seen with a 60 amp hour battery so far. The one I have here is their Tesgo Thunder M, which is their step over model. It's not that high of a step, so it's kind of in between a step over and a step through, but they also have a full step through model, which is the Thunder F. That one has a lower bar there, and it also has a lighter battery, still a large battery though, at 48 volt 30 amp hours. As I said earlier, this is a cargo e-bike. As you can see, it has that extended length that most cargo bikes have. This has a maximum load of 350 pounds. So you can be 200 pounds and ride up front and then still riding back with someone that's 150 pounds. So as you can see here, you have a seat and a backrest, which is included with the purchase. Beside that, you also come down here. We also have footrest. Not something I see included with a lot of e-bikes. Usually they have the seat, but they don't have the foot portion. One thing I will say is if you're considering another e-bike that has a seat on the back, check the specs and make sure that seat is actually rated to carry somebody. I've seen a few e-bikes now that have a seat on back just like this, but if you look at the specs, the rear rack only has a maximum carrying capacity of like 50 to 75 pounds. So you definitely don't want to carry anything but a small child back there. But unlike those, this one is actually fully rated for 150 pounds. As you can see here, this is a full suspension e-bike. This is your rear suspension here. It's a Sauté brand. And then you have a front fork suspension. I don't know what the brand of this one is, but it just has their Tesco logo on it. Right down here, we have a 750 watt motor that has 85 Newton meters of torque. I don't see any branding on it or labels. It looks like it's probably inside as the motor is covered with this nice mag wheel. I definitely prefer these over spoke wheels, as not only do they look better, but they're also a lot more maintenance free. As long as you don't hit a pothole and bend these, you're good to go. But with spoke wheels, occasionally you have to retighten all the spokes. You might have to true the wheel if you hit a bad pothole, and then occasionally you might even get a random spoke break on you, which has happened in my other e-bikes. So yeah, a lot less to deal with when you have mag wheels like this. Looking at the tires, these are Kenda 20 by 4 inch fat tires. Coming down to the brake, we have hydraulic brakes with a nice beefy 180 millimeter rotor. Coming to the bars, you have a built-in horn, Shimano 7-speed shifter. On the other side, we have our control panel with a built-in USB port so you can charge your phone or other devices. Always good to have that. And then right here in the middle, we have a nice color screen. It looks a little bit washed out right now, but that's only because the sun is shining pretty bright where I'm at. But in person, it's nice and bright. No problem seeing it. Up top, we have our battery graph. Got our speed in the middle, pedal assist speed. You got a nice little 3D effect going there. And at the bottom, we have our odometer. Clicking through the buttons, you could change from trip, odometer, max speed, average speed, and then your amps. Last but not least, this bike does come with a 8 amp charger. Nice and beefy charger, feels well made, all metal shell. And as you can see here, it is ETL listed, which is the same as being UL listed. So they put this through all the tests, made sure it was safe, so it's not going to start any fires or overheat on you. It's good that we have this 8 amp charger, as we have this absolutely massive battery. If we had a 3 amp charger like most bikes come with, this would have took forever to charge. But since we have this 8 amp hour, it's really not going to take much longer to charge this bike versus if you were to have a bike with a 20 amp hour battery. All right, so far, and surprisingly, very surprisingly, this bike is very easy to pedal. I thought because of the weight and the overall length of it, it was going to be difficult to pedal without the motor. But right now I have it off. I'm not even on gear 1, I'm on gear 3, and it pedals very, very easily. If I shift down to gear 1, extremely easy. So if you were to get stranded somewhere and your battery dies out, despite the very heavy weight of this bike, it's going to be no problem at all pedaling this home. Another good thing is you don't really feel the length either. With cargo bikes, they look pretty long, so I was worried that I might feel like I'm riding around a limousine bike, but honestly, it just feels the same, like a regular shorter bike. I compared it to my 26 by 4 fat tire e-bike, and it's almost the same exact length. Yeah, I can definitely ride this bike for a good 10 miles probably without a motor, and it wouldn't be an issue. I mean, I would definitely be tired, but it's not going to be that hard of a workout. All right, so I went ahead and turned on the motor now. It looks like pedal assist 1 puts you at about 10 miles per hour. I did unlock the bike already. I'm not sure what it was at by default, but whenever I get a bike, the first thing I try to do is unlock it just so I can see out of the box what it's really capable of. It didn't let me put it that much higher. I think I let me raise it up by like 3 or 4 miles per hour. All right, let's see how this pedal assist responds. Very good response in the pedals. It's about a quarter of a rotation maybe, so no delay there. All right, so 10.5 on pedal assist 1. Let's switch it up to pedal assist 2. With that being said, this is a torquey bike, which in the end makes sense as this is a cargo bike. So right now, while it might feel like it's jerking me forward, once you have a passenger on this or you're hauling 150 pounds or something, it's gonna have just enough power to move you along without any issues. All right, so pedal assist 2, it looks like it's putting me at 13.5 to 13.7. Let's go ahead and go to number 3. Looks like 20 miles per hour. I would say pedaling isn't that great. Right now I'm at 20 on the highest gear, and I can already feel it starting to lose some traction. So I'm pretty sure once I get to about 24 or 25, I'm definitely gonna start ghost pedaling. All right, so pedal assist 4, let's see what that gives us. This bike definitely has the power to push you along. Looks like 26 with medium to high pedaling on pedal assist 4. Does it have a 5? All right, it does have a 5. Let me go ahead and flip around so I have enough room here and so no one doesn't leave me the inevitable comment about running stop signs. All right, pedal assist 5. 26.5. Let me pedal harder, see what we get. 28.3. If I push it a little harder and have a little more room, it definitely would have reached 29, no problem, but that would have been with leg power, not really the motor. So I'll stay with the motor, probably tops out somewhere around 28, but in a little bit we'll test it with the throttle only. Let me go ahead and test out these brakes. Get it up a little quicker. Oh yeah, definitely stops very well. This is a very heavy bike, and plus it's a cargo bike, so you definitely need good brakes. And it definitely has no problems in the department. Nice and solid hydraulic brakes. This suspension works very well. This is a full suspension e-bike in combination with the fat tires. Right now I have them at their upper PSI limit. I have it about 3 PSI less than its maximum. But with the suspension, I barely feel these bumps at all. Which again, very good to have in a cargo bike. I think the worst thing would be to be hauling around a passenger with all that weight on there and the suspension stinks and go over any little bump, you're gonna feel it. But with this, it's definitely nice and smooth. I like that this has an adjustable stem. Some of these bikes come with a fixed stem. I definitely prefer the adjustable, especially if it's this kind of bars. And another cool thing that I like is it has little increments here. So it has numbers. The top one here is 12, then it goes 11, 10. I guess it goes down to 1. But that's very useful. So if you're someone who shares the bike with someone, or maybe you just fold it up to the smallest position a lot, you can just remember, okay, I like my bars at number 10, and you don't have to mess with it and fidget with it every single time. You just put it up, put it on number 10, and that'll be your perfect and ideal riding position. All right, let me flip around. Let's try this on throttle only. First off, let me see if this throttle is attached to the pedal assist. All right, so throttle is attached to the pedal assist. So depending on what pedal assist you're on, it'll limit it there. So it'll match up with whatever the pedals give you. But let's go ahead and put it on 5 so you get the maximum speed this can do. It's probably gonna be 28, I'm hoping, since it was 28 on pedals. 27. All right, ran out of room, but it was climbing very, very slowly. So once again, I'm positive it would have reached the 28 if I just kept it and held it long enough. It climbs up to about 25 very quickly, but 25 and up, that's when it still climbs, but a little slower. So that's where it's kind of reaching its maximum power. The definite selling point of this bike is not only that it has a 60 amp hour battery, which is gigantic, but it's also a cargo bike. So traditionally, Most bikes top out somewhere around 20 amp hours. That's like the average larger battery size. And if you have a cargo bike and you're hauling around and going quicker, that's going to kill your battery so quick because all of that increased load and speed you're doing. But with this, you could max out this, the weight on this. You could be going quick and you're still going to have a very hard time killing out that battery because 60 amp hours is a lot of battery. Even if you're gunning this full speed, you're definitely going to get 60 to 70 miles and up, and that's holding full throttle the entire time. If you're riding more casually, I can definitely see you getting 100 miles plus on this. So definitely an absolute monster when it comes to range. You're never going to have range anxiety on this, and I'm willing to bet 90% of people are not going to be able to kill this battery in a single ride. You're going to have to ride a very long time. I'm pretty sure your legs and your body's going to give out before you get to ride long enough to kill this battery. Despite this bike being foldable, this bike is definitely not that portable. It weighs a whole lot more than the average e-bike, mostly thanks to that huge battery. So if you plan to lug this upstairs or carry it in and out of your car often, I probably wouldn't recommend it. But if you're just going into your house or your garage, it'll definitely work out well. But it is nice that it's foldable though, so it gives you a little more room if you're storing it in your house or your garage. Yeah, overall, I have no complaints with this bike. One little nitpick I have, which I hate this in every single video, but it's worth mentioning because I hate it that much, is this shifter. I hate how this looks. It looks like a low budget junk shifter. It works fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but the problem is it just looks clunky and ugly. I prefer, this one is the turny shifter. I much prefer the Acera. Functionality wise, they're very similar, but that one is much more low profile. It kind of sits right here in the bars a little more. And it just looks a lot better on an e-bike. This just looks like it belongs on a Walmart bike and it doesn't really belong on a more expensive e-bike. Other than that, this is definitely a very solid bike. It feels very well made. Running through bumps, I don't feel anything shaking or making any noise or anything like that. So the frame feels very solid. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing jumps or more rough riding with this bike because it is very heavy and I'm sure that will damage the frame. But for regular riding and maybe a curb hop, it'll definitely be okay. Nice that it has this little electronic horn. That's another complaint I usually have in a lot of e-bikes when they have the little rinky-dinky bell that sounds like it belongs on a 7-year-old bike with the ribbons at the side, little bling bling. Again, that has no business on an e-bike. If it's a whole electronic bike, I feel like they definitely should give me one of these. It has a decent enough volume that people will be able to hear you, and cars will probably be able to hear you if they have their windows down as well. But at the same time, it's not very loud that it's going to startle anybody and make them mad on the bike path or anything. So yeah, other than those few nitpicks, I really have no complaints with this bike. Very solid. Specs are good, brakes are well, battery is gigantic, speed is good enough for most people. So yeah, if you're looking for a cargo e-bike that has a monster range on it, this bike here is definitely a great option to look at. All right, well, that about wraps up this video. As usual, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop me a comment and let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.